And we invested, I think, more than 800 hours to build this tool, which seems so simple. Today we're talking about visual regression tests, one of the hardest to pronounce topics, at least to Germans,
yes.
Yeah. What are visual regression tests, Dominic?
Wow. Visual regression tests. Visual regression tests. Yeah, probably by the end of this recording, we know how to say it. Actually.
Yeah, hopefully.
We got it down. These tests are actually tests where you compare screenshots if something has changed. What does it mean? Like, basically you can have like on a schedule basis, screenshots taken over and over again from the same website. And as long as you didn't change any content, you expect the screenshot also not to change, right? And that is what you want to test with a visual regression test. Yes.
Yeah, we came up with the abbreviation VRT or VRTs for visual regression tests. So hopefully we don't have to say that word that often anymore.
Yeah, maybe we just say VRT.
VRTs.
Yeah.
By the way, that's the 3D printed logo in the background also.
Yay.
That I'm having here. Little side promo. Because, maybe full disclaimer up front, we built a visual regression test tool ourselves for WordPress because we felt there was no tool out there that fulfilled our needs, kind of. It didn't, nothing that worked the way we wanted it to work, or basically nothing that was simple, just that you could use. Because this, where does this type of testing come from, actually? Like, where does it have its origin? I have no real idea, but I feel it's been around for years and years. I remember the first project where we used this technique. It must have been 2015, something like that, 2016, 17.
Yeah, no later. Like, it's really a long time ago, and it has been around forever, right? This idea of comparing screenshots if something is working or not. And there are actually lots of tools out there, right? That have like some setup, like how you can do these tests. There are even like open source tools that let you do that. But yeah, as you said, we always found that it's not easy enough to handle. Like, maybe easy enough to maintain on the one hand for us developers, but also easy enough to use for a client, right? Because in best case scenario, we as developers wouldn't have to do anything, actually. But our clients could do it themselves, right? Or it would be done automatically.
It's, well, the basic idea, it's some kind of software, automatic software test that should run usually. But first of all, you got to define when that runs. Like on which occasion. I think coming from a software development background, then you typically want these tests to run whenever you introduce some new feature, a change, just to ensure that those changes that you're making to the front end are don't break anything else, don't break any existing visual change. And that was extremely helpful with this project where we first did that, configure that ourselves, because what was that? I think we took over an existing project, and were they using Bootstrap as a framework? I think, or some kind of CSS framework.
No, but they were using a CSS preprocessor.
Oh, okay.
So that was the issue, right? So we took over a big project, like a big content website from a magazine. And we were really like, okay, if we deploy this now, it has a lot of like visitors. And if we deploy something where we don't really know the code at all, and it was like really also a mess, kind of, then we cannot be sure to, if what we deploy will break the site or not.
Yeah.
So we set up like the simple VRT, like or visual regression test suite with an open source tool actually that's still around, BackstopJS. Like we can do some promo for those things, right? Because that's a really cool tool. So we had like our build pipeline that like took whenever we wanted to push something, set up a new environment, like took screenshots there, took screenshots from production, compared that, and so on. And the great thing is we noticed that, and this is like really nerdy now, but in this, I think either a node version changed or just the package was updated from like sus or less or something like that. And what changed was the precision when rounding decimals. And while on a normal website you would probably not see anything, they had like massive content sites, right? So like the margins, I think, got larger and larger and larger and so on. So this was like really a weird regression that we found, that the white space grew the longer the page got.
Yeah.
Something like that. And we wouldn't have noticed, right?
It might have been even like the line height or something like that. So I think when we compared those screenshots, it was just a whole page became like a couple of hundred pixels longer because it was such a long copy on the page. And nobody would have ever noticed. Well, you can ask, of course, is it that significant? But well, at least we were able to catch that. And also if someone told us, well, I feel the pages are longer now, we would probably have told everyone off, like, no, why would that happen? No, nothing really changed and so on. Because it was just the precision for rounding values, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did it take to set that up?
Wow, that's a long time ago, as you said. No, but well, first there was like this library called BackstopJS that combines a couple of other tools, right? So first of all, like usually you want to take an automated screenshot, right? For that you need like some headless browser or be able to run a browser somehow and control that programmatically. Now, in the past, this was always the job of Selenium, which is like I think like a Java-based driver for these tests. It's really mature, but it's also pretty old school. And then like some other tools came along, Phantom.js and so on. And now everyone basically is using Puppeteer or like Playwright as an interface to interact with the browser, because actually browsers now ship with a headless mode usually. So you don't even have to have a special software that emulates like the behavior of a browser, because you can just take the browser, use its headless mode, and then basically visit programmatically a website, wait till everything is loaded, maybe click some buttons, and then take a full-size screenshot. Like in every browser you can test that out when you open the command line or the developer tools, and then like use or select the capture full page screenshot. And this is basically what you do programmatically then.
Clarification, what is headless mode?
Headless mode just means without a UI. So
So you take a screenshot, you interact with the website without actually seeing that website, without actually the browser opening a page, but doing that just in the background. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's number one. That's the first thing you need. And then in Backstop, I think there are like some, you basically only deal with the configuration object, which is actually really nice, because usually you have to write these scripts, right? So browser go to page, like URL something, click this, wait for that. And in BackstopJS, there was a lot of this stuff already integrated, and you could specify a couple of selectors that you wanted to take screenshots from. And this is actually also something really important to note that we might get later on. This, like, what do you actually take a screenshot of? I just said like full page screenshot. So this shows like what we are mostly doing. But of course, you could also do that on a component level, or just have special areas of the page that you want to like check or compare. So, and then you always had like this reference screenshot, right? So at some point in time, you would have to take a screenshot and say, okay, these are the ones I want to compare everything against. And then at a later point in time, you could say, okay, now take another screenshot. You have the URLs. Maybe like you could also do that like between stages, like you can compare production and staging or something like that. Or you could say, I want to compare staging to a point in time earlier, like, or the current staging to the reference that we took. And yeah, then you just let that run, and then you had a nice overview, like old screenshot and new screenshot, and always there's like a threshold of like pixel differences or whatever, where you could say, okay, I want to be alerted, or it should have failed, like the test should have failed if a certain threshold of pixels is surpassed, right? So we always got like then this this HTML and images, like these artifacts that belong to one test. We uploaded them to a protected like server where we could view them, and then had like an email or something notify us if everything went wrong or not, everything went right or not.
And ideally, that's integrated in the continuous integration process. So also, whenever you do a pull request or something like that, or of a deployment, that this gets run automatically.
Yes.
But yeah, all those steps, still with a tool like BackstopJS, those have been rather manual to set up, right? You need to decide for a tool. You need to define which steps you need to take, what should happen, if the full page should be screenshotted, which page should be screenshotted, at what point in time when that happens, hook that up into some continuous integration, and then have this user interface where screenshots actually gets compared, upload that somewhere so you can look at it and notify someone. It's not like just this tool, you just install it and everything is there. It takes significant effort to set that up.
Yes.
And to make these decisions, what and where and how you want to test it, and on which browsers, on which resolutions. So we wanted to use that since a lot of times. And I remember we talked with many clients about that as well. But we rarely ever did that, because in the end, when we were coming down to our calculation of how much effort it would be to set that up for someone, for a website, I think no one ever felt that was worth the effort to implement.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why there are a lot of tools actually now out there that promise you to make everything easier, right? Where you can just add a URL and then like have this URL watched or whatever. But again, this is different than having, like, we now mostly talked about the integration in a CI/CD process, right? Or a workflow where you want to actually, when you know that something has changed, or when you just want to test if your changes break the layout, right? What most of the tools are for, or what that I'm referring to now, because VRTs actually, like our plugin or our services also goes in a different direction, where you monitor your production environment, right? And then no matter like if there are content changes that you didn't account for, or like if this can also, of course, take into consideration deployments, but it's not tied to that, right? So there you don't like only take screenshots when you deploy something, but you take screenshots on a regular basis, for example, daily. And then just to be sure that your page that you know looks a certain way still does look this way, right?
Yeah. So, but we can probably elaborate just a little bit about that. Why don't we use any of those SaaS tools that are out there?
Yeah, why not, Steffen?
Why not? Yeah. Well, again, like I would argue, first of all, from a workflow point of view, again, it's just another tool. You have to subscribe to another tool. You have to set up some paid plan with them. And then you have a separate interface that you need to operate for a website. And again, you need to configure it at least. You need to configure in the tool, make all these decisions again. Which page, on which resolutions, which browsers, when should that happen? How do we trigger that? Then again, they might have an API, and you might need to do an API call, integrate that again with some kind of a continuous integration flow. But probably also you could just like set up an automation that every day or something like that, those tests run. But still, even in that simple scenario, it's just this one more tool which isn't integrated with the existing website, and someone has to maintain also that tool. Who does that? Are we doing that? Sure, fine, but are we getting paid for that? We need to explain again to people, to our clients, and how much effort does it take? Usually, if it's running, it's only a one-time setup. But what if it breaks? Who monitors those changes and so on? You can come to conclusions, of course, right? But again, you have to make all these decisions, and it's then a very specific thing. So we never really ended up doing that either.
Yes. We tested a couple of things, right? We also like for full disclaimer, no, how do you say it? We also, like, the first version of VRTs actually had an external service integrated, but these services, a lot of the times they want to offer like everything, right? Or they want to, which makes sense, like they want to, or what. Not necessarily makes sense, but they want to cater as many use cases as possible, because there is this monitoring of single websites, then or of a production website. Then there is the integration in the CI/CD workflow. Then there is full page screenshots or like component-based screenshots. Then you have something like integration into tools like Storybook. Right, where you which is like a component library basically that you can have for your front end stuff or for your design system, and like basically screenshot all these things and so on. So there are so many options, and within these options there are again so many options that it's like just really difficult to set this up for someone who just wants to make sure that the website looks as expected, right?
Right. We would need basically also an expert in our team just for that topic. It's not like telling anyone, hey, can you please set up the VRTs for that? And someone would just say, yeah, sure, I'm going to do that. Give me access, and then it's it. But yeah, you need to be aware of making all these decisions and discuss it with the client and so on. So what did we want to have? What was the starting point? Why, first of all, did we want to have VRTs for our websites? Because usually, what could go wrong? What could we detect? Well, this precision rounding thing is some kind of edge case. Why would you need VRTs? Where would they help yourself? That's the first question that we asked ourselves. And it can be not that easy to answer that, because most of those questions I would answer with, because of there are so many edge cases, there are so many things that can go wrong potentially that shouldn't go wrong, but which are really hard to catch with manual Q&A. Just for example, let's take one of the simpler things, like you are updating on your WordPress website, you are updating a plugin, or it gets updated automatically, whatever your workflow is. And it's the plugin for one feature for some kind of, I don't know, form or some integration or a slider or whatsoever. And something goes wrong, or the plugin changes and it's not displayed the way anymore that it should or that it was before. But maybe this thing is only used on a handful of pages on the website. How do you find out that that happened? Who will find that out? And I've seen over the course of 15 years building websites, I think typically the worst case almost happens is that you don't notice that those things for a long time until someone accidentally sees that, or even worse, a customer lets you know that your website is broken and something doesn't work. And then another problem with that is you might at that point have no idea when that happened and what caused it. And it can be hard to figure out. And then typically it can be like, yeah, I'm sure yesterday it worked because I didn't see it. But yeah, have you been on that page? I don't really know. You don't have a proof even of that. And it can be hard to track also the source of the problem.
Yeah. I think that's like a really good point there, because how many times have we heard like, yeah, but yesterday this looked different, or yeah, but this used to work before, or like this was different before. And now you have like screenshots of your website, which are of course only screenshots, but they already capture like a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So also like another thing is the browsers that change, right? Maybe a new feature that, or you're using some deprecated feature, like deprecated styling stuff, and then a new browser comes out, and suddenly on new browsers, your website looks totally different, right?
Yeah.
That might also be the case. But you have to always look at these visual regression tests in the greater scheme of things, right? What you want to do. Like, because you want to just ensure that your website is working, right? So for all of our maintenance and support customers, clients, we offer like downtime checks, right, or like uptime checks, actually, to see if the site responds with a 200 status code, right? So this is like the first thing that you do. Then you could also crawl the website, or like visit a website in like one of these browser environments to see if there are any JavaScript errors, right? Then you can do the screenshots, which is like the next step, and it gets more and more sophisticated, right? And also more and more effort you want to put in, because like the next, like one of the things that doesn't, of course, get checked by the screenshots is like, does my website work the way it should work when I click a button, when I interact with the website, right? And for these sites, you also, or for these checks, you can also use like similar tools. But there are a lot of tools out there where you can do it, and it's always a sort of a manual like endeavor, or like a manual configuration that you need to do.
Needs to be very specific to the website, to the exact components,
Yes.
the way the website works. Yeah.
And you either do this by code, right, where you just say, as I mentioned before, this go to website, a click button, expect this to happen, and so on. That's one way. But there are also like plugins for a browser where you can actually record these scripts and then integrate that with like an external service. And then this gets checked. And this is also like, this is really, really good for like checking stuff. But it's always the question, like, what is the functionality on my website? How much effort am I willing to put in it? How much money also am I willing to spend on it? And with like the screenshot tests, these are like really, they should be, because they are not or haven't been until recently. They should be really easy to set up and give you a really like the amount of confidence that you get for the amount of money that it costs to do that is like really high. And that's why I think it's a really good thing to do.
Right. Yeah. It's so simple to set up then, and in such a general way with very low configuration effort. And yeah, again, like you said, it gives you a high level of confidence at the same time. It doesn't solve all your problems. It doesn't solve all these things also. Yeah, like interaction, like when you click there and then that, and can you check that? It's not functional tests, but it's a very basic level that works for a lot of cases. I really like when you said this, this used to work before, because this is like this developer's joke kind of, right? Why doesn't this work? Well, it has to work. And then you look into it and it's like, oh, no, that's weird. And then, no, it could have never worked the way it was, right? And then you dig deeper and it's like, okay, that's so weird. This happens sometimes. But okay, that's one case. The plugin updates, for example, Other things you could catch with those visual regression tests is code changes to the website made, like you have a new deployment, deploy a new component whatsoever, and then it might have a side effect on another page, or on a different spot, and or just any code change. Like it kind of gives you confirmation when the new screenshot is compared to the reference screenshot a day later, that something changed. And then even if it's not a problem, at least you're aware. You see, okay, great, that feature went online. That's now the new status quo. That's what changed. Great.
Yeah. Also, there are a lot of plugins out there, or like some tools where like there will be changes to your website that you don't anticipate, right? Although you haven't changed anything. Like what we do, like we also like take new screenshots when you explicitly update your page, right? A page. Let's say you have a page that you're monitoring and you're changing the content. Then of course, yes, you click the save button, and then we know, okay, you wanted to take a new screenshot, or you need to take a new screenshot because the content has changed. You wanted this to change, right?
Yeah.
But if like, and in a Flint context, this is like mostly only if you change global options or translatable options, like options that are for components but don't belong to a specific page, but are like basically global options for all components of a specific type. Then you this might also change the way that a page looks, although you didn't anticipate that, right?
So something like you have a general global option for a phone number on the website, and you change that, and this change will affect like 20 other pages where that's included.
Yeah,
and that would be good to know also if something.
Yeah, or think about when you don't have Flint, right? Or you you override a global the global, like the main font, right? So somebody just plays around a little bit, wants to try out things in the customizer maybe, or something like that, and then suddenly hit save instead of preview, and then you have a new font, and like maybe it's just minor difference, but there is a difference, and maybe this wasn't cleared with your team, right? Maybe you're like, you shouldn't do that, or like these little things that can always happen. These are like so good to catch with screenshots.
I also remember, like we on our old website a couple of years ago, we had this technique where line breaks on mobile. Line breaks that were set up for desktop would automatically be concatenated on mobile to have not the same line breaks on mobile. And there was some kind of bug. I think I don't even really remember why that occurred, but it was not when updating that page, but whenever we updated some kind of dependency or some other page or option on the website, somehow the space on mobile became 0. So words were like clutched together. And this was so embarrassing also because it happened so irregularly. And I remember someone writing me an email saying, if you can't even like write your copy on your website correctly, then you don't seem to be professional, and something like that. That was a bit weird of a comment, but still I got so mad and almost like myself not noticing that, and also like having our website uncontrollably do that and not being notified about that. Also, when you have external services integrated, APIs like loading jobs from an API, external API, and that API changes or stops working, or your server is having problems, or there's malicious code on the website, or an error or warning pops up on the website. Just, the more you think about it, the more cases are popping up which shouldn't happen. And exactly that's where those screenshots work really well.
Yeah. And again, just to say that, because we always think about our like Flint users as our customers or whatever, right? But I think it's even with something like Flint, where you have like strict rules, you don't have like, not all editors have all the options. Then like the need is not as, or the need is even higher for other page builders where you have like total freedom, and where you have like these different basically parts or templates or modules or however they are called that you can import on pages and so on, and then you don't know if something changes in there, and like you don't even know where you have used these and so on. So I've seen so many. This is also why we actually came up with Flint, right? Because these existing page builders, like we basically like none of them. But yeah, I think in these situations, a visual regression testing suite that is set up for your website is even more helpful and can give you even more confidence that your website is working as expected.
Yeah, exactly. And after years and years of, I think probably every other month talking about how great it would be to have visual regression tests, we finally gave up on just things to come into place and the right software popping up and decided to build that thing on our own. We sat down also together with the client and made a concept of what that tool would need to be able to do and how that should work to be very simple to set up, to configure and to run and to monitor. And what we came up with is a WordPress plugin that is called literally VRTs, Visual Regression Tests. You'll find it in the WordPress.org directory. And what that does is when you install it, it will automatically set up the first test for your homepage with plugin activation and will start testing your homepage on a daily basis. It first takes one reference screenshot, and then every single day it takes the new screenshot, compares that with the screenshot of the day before, and if there are any pixel differences, it will send an alert via email to you and notify you that basically something changed. And then you can log into WordPress, and within WordPress you will see then the differences with like a slider, a comparison view where the differences are highlighted, or also with a side-by-side view. And then you can look into that, decide what needs to be done. Maybe, oh yeah, this is an intentional change. Just hit resolve and that's it, all fine. Keep on testing. Or you see that it's a bug, and then you work on that, figure that out, fix that, deploy the changes, and then hit resolve, and then a new reference screenshot is taken. And you can configure that for multiple pages, basically for any public page or post on your WordPress website. Just activate it also in a meta box, just right when you're creating a page, then you can just activate it there and start testing. And it was important for us also to have a free version, also for ourselves and for our clients, because not every client would want to purchase like a premium plan for that. But I think this basic level of security is really important for everyone. So right now, up to 3 pages are for free that you can test there. And then we have premium plans where you can have more pages being tested on your site. Yeah, so a little self-promo. Go check that out. Yes. But at the same time, it's just like, yeah, I wanted to... I think there is not enough awareness about visual regression tests. And that's probably our biggest challenge also with marketing, that plugin, that people become aware that there is such a thing that you can do that might just help you a lot. And I hope people will become more aware of this. From a technical point of view, Dominic, how does that work?
How does that work? Well, when you basically when you activate the plugin, your WordPress instance gets registered. Like the URL gets registered at a service that or in a web server that we host, or that controls basically all of our application logic. And then we make sure that it's actually a real WordPress installation and that it's publicly available, because we can only first of all, we can only take screenshots of publicly available URLs, and we also need to notify, we have to know that it's a WordPress instance, and we have to be able to talk to the plugin that you have installed on your WordPress instance as well. So when you have like big like security or like firewalls or like big security requirements and so on, it might not work, this service, we have to say, because like these things are required for us to actually take the screenshot and make sure that everything is working as expected. Well, so then we register the page and we the WordPress instance, and then we register all of the URLs that you want to monitor. And these get then screenshotted on a daily basis. We use like headless Chrome currently, like Chrome as a browser. Like currently we only focus on one browser because again,
and one resolution.
And one resolution, and like because it should be as simple as possible. Then we take the screenshot, and the screenshot is compared via this like algorithm, right? That finds every like non-matching pixel. And then we get like a number of total pixels, we get the number of non-matching pixels, and then we know the discrepancy between the two images. And then we notify WordPress. And we also like, we don't keep any email addresses or anything, any personal data on our servers. We only have the URL and where we can call the WordPress instance. And then we tell WordPress, okay, there has been a comparison or like two screenshots were compared, and it was over or under the threshold, and then WordPress knows it, or like either sends an email to you or not. Like your own WordPress instance will actually send the email to you.
Right, because we don't want to store like any data, personal data, private data on our server. So this is like, it's an external service, a server we're running, which is also taking those screenshots, because you can't do that on a regular server setup. You need specific tools to do that. Otherwise, we would have bundled that within the plugin. But just technically, it has to be that way, that we have the separate service that runs these screenshots and then reports them back to your WordPress website. That's basically it. Yeah. And I think it's the first zero configuration visual regression tests suite that is out there.
Yeah. If you're not using cookie banners.
Okay. We want to say a big thank you to all our podcast listeners. We will give you a 50% discount on the VRTs Pro plan until the 31st of January 2023.
And that's 50% on your lifetime value.
Yes, it won't expire. The discount code is Siegfried.
Siegfried, all caps, all lowercase. What is it?
Hopefully we make it work with either one of those. I'm not prepared for that. Try it all lowercase.
We want to keep it, as Stefan has said, as minimal as possible. And currently, like one of the only settings, like global settings that you can do is have define a selector, like a DOM selector, for an element that you want to be clicked before the screenshot is taken, right? Mm-hmm. Because but maybe actually you want the cookie banner to be on on the screenshot, right? To see that it's actually working correctly. Yeah, that would also be something that you could do.
Exactly, but like if you don't want that cookie banner to be visible, then you just add a CSS class selector in the configuration for this element that should be clicked away, and then we wait for that to take the screenshot.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it sounds really simple. And there are a lot of moving parts. Like this, taking the screenshots is like also something that is quite resource intense. What else? Yeah, also like the first version we built that with an external service which was taking the screenshots, but then they also shut down. Unfortunately, they shut down the service, and we decided for our own solution we need our own service taking those screenshots, right? But there are so many things that go into it. The first
MVP was rather quick to develop, but it still took like, I don't know, 2 months of development. But in the end, we ended up with, oh gosh, hundreds of hours, like and a team of like 8 people or something, doing the concept workshop, the design, UX and UI design as natively as possible, the front-end development of the plugin, the service development, the screenshot development. And we invested, I think, more than 800 hours in total to build this tool, which when you now install it, seems so simple. It doesn't look like it does a lot. And it seems, very simple. And that's just what I love about it, because the first talks we had about it, we had so many ideas of features that need or should go into this and how this could be improved. And we had discussions where we said, oh no, we have to have this feature, otherwise no one will use it or it won't be helpful. And we still try to keep the basic set of features very small, and that in the end felt like a good decision, but it felt very almost insecure when we were working on that, because it always felt like we could do this one more thing, we should do this one more thing. And I'm sure there are many, many more features following. We have a backlog of ideas already, but we want to start simple.
Yes, and we don't want to make it complicated for the clients, right?
It should stay simple always.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's visual regression testing.
VRTs.
VRTs.
Yeah.
VRTs.
Yeah, awesome. So go and download the plugin. Give us feedback. That's really appreciated. We want to keep it as simple as possible, but also make it as useful as possible. And the free version is out there. You can try it.
Go grab it.
Yeah.